So we need to talk. Look, if you're new to the channel, guys, go ahead and hit the subscribe button really quick. Look, we talk about everything that matters to you guys and to me. And in today's video, guys, we're going to go ahead and hit up inflation rates, guys. Inflation rates, we all know the government likes to keep inflation around 2 to 3%, right? Year after year, right? But what they fail to tell you guys, what the government and the people that are in power, what they fail to tell you is that the inflation rate compounds. It stacks, right? It's a snowball. So every year it might go up 2% or 3% every year, guys, right? But the inflation, the actual inflation, if you go over a 5-year period, is way higher than a 3% rate. I mean, we already know that. It's way higher than 3 percentage points or 2 percentage points or even 4 percentage points, guys. I mean, look, just right here, this is over the last, asked AI, over the last 5 years, roughly from 2020 to 2025, what was the average, what was the inflation rate? And this is it averaged 4 to 5% every year, an increase. And what does that mean? That means that over the last 5 years, you can see this right here, key trends, US CPI annual change. You see that? So this right here means that in 2020, it went up to 1.2%. In 2021, it went up to 4.7%. Then inflation shot up to 8% in 2022. Then in 2023, it shot up another 4.1%. And in 2024, it went to 2.9%. And then in 2025, it went up 2.7%. But in the last 5 years, it actually went up. You know, you got to think about it. Let's see here. 1.2%, 4.7%, 5, 8%. So that's another 13%, another 4%. That's about 17, 18, 19, 20. Over 20% increase in inflation over the last, 5 years. So I have to ask, has your wages gone up over the last 5 years? Have you gained more income over the last 5 years on average? Now there may be some people who, was working 9 to 5 in 2020 and then started their own business. Yeah, their income may have gone up. But if you're working, your career, have you gotten a 20%, over 20% increase in your actual wages? Most people have not. So when you start wondering, wow, I wonder, why are people struggling so bad? That is why, guys. That is why. When you've got inflation literally year after year going up, I mean, I don't even think people get 5% increases in their salary every year, let alone a 4% or a 3% increase every year after year. People cannot keep up with inflation. That's the problem, guys. You understand that? That is the problem. Is that you're not going to get increases every year to keep up with the inflation rate because it's not designed, right? The inflation makes us all poor. Do you understand that? When the printing press gets turned on and all the dollars just start getting, flowing out, more dollars in circulation means that the dollar gets devalued, meaning that essentially what's going to happen is you might be working for $50,000 or $60,000 a year, but when they inflate the currency, right, into infinity, your $50,000, $60,000 a year that you're working and paying for ends up becoming less valuable. Does that make sense? But the actual goods, like actual products, like a microphone or a cell phone or a laptop or a vehicle, right, or a house, goes up in value because the actual hard assets, like the material, minerals, that stuff goes up, but not really go up because, let me rephrase it. It looks like it goes up, but it's not actually going up, right? The value of, like, let's say a house or lumber, for example, doesn't really go up. It looks like it does when you look at the market as a whole, but actually what's happening is the dollar is losing the value. Does that make sense? The dollar losing its value makes it appear that home values are going up, lumber is going up, windows are going up, vehicle prices are going up. But what's actually happening is the government or the powers that be, you ever want to call them, the elites, are essentially milking the system. So, like, you may have $100,000, or just to say, you may have $10,000 in the bank, right, in 2020. Well, if you would just kept that money there and just waited over 5 years, you would have at least a 20% less savings account. You may still have the $100,000 there, or the $10,000 that you started with in 2020, but it got 25% less valuable because everything else went up. Does that make sense? So, like, that's what's happening with the economy right now. And so people's wages aren't keeping up with the rate of inflation. Now they try to, like, bait and hook you and say, "Oh, but it is keeping up with inflation." It's not keeping up with inflation because unless you got, over the last 5 years, a 20%, 25% increase in your wages, you did not get a proper raise, one, and two, you're not keeping up with the inflation because you never will. It's not designed. Remember that, guys. It's not designed for you to, the system that we live in, it's not designed for you to thrive in. The only way you're going to thrive in this system, the modern American economy, is you have to start a business, start a side hustle, start a second side hustle, or just be super successful as, like, in your business, and just have a business and be super successful, micro focused on that. And that's the only way you're gonna be successful in this modern economy. But working, a 9 to 5 for, a company that you could be laid off next week, that's not gonna be sustainable. You may get your 40 hours a week. You might get your pension after 20 years. But, like, after 20 years, it's like you may not make it to 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might work for that company for 8 years and they lay you off, and then the entire industry restructures and you can't find a job in that industry. So you start back to ground zero again. That's why I'm an advocate for, like, starting businesses, because even if it's a small business, you can have a small business that still makes 100,000 a year, or $250,000 a year, or $500,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? That's a small bit, or even $1 million a year and be a small business. Like, you don't have to sit there and think, well, let me just work for, like, a 9 to 5 the rest of my life, and that's the secret to success. Yeah, you're always going to have to answer to somebody if that's the case. You know what I'm saying? And then you're never going to make enough unless you're a CEO or, like, or a doctor. Like, you're not going to, or a lawyer. You're not going to make enough. Even lawyers don't really make a whole bunch of money until they actually start their own practice. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, even, like, your basic family doctor, like, they make 120, 140. I mean, that gross. Basic physicians, like, that's barely enough to survive. You know what I mean? Nowadays, like, you saw the articles, right? Like, it takes $140,000 a year to take care of a family of 4 to be comfortable. That's insane. And they came out with new studies now where they're saying that to have a family of 5, family of 6, you have to make $250,000 a year to be comfortable. And so in this economy, it's all gone up. Everything is just out of whack. But you have to adapt to the economy if you're expecting to survive and thrive in this economy. Look, guys, we're playing a giant game here in this economy, and you got to either learn to play the game or leave the game. If you leave the game, then what's the alternative? Like, what's your plan B? Where are you gonna go? What? Like, you're gonna go to Mexico? You're gonna go parts of Asia? Like, where are you gonna go? I mean, really, at the end of the day, guys, like, you've got to figure out what your game plan is, right? And, if you can, live below your means and try to make a lot of money. Because in this economy, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to make a lot of money and start storing cash away. You're going to have to. Because inflation's not going away, guys. You understand that? The job market's going to get worse in 2026. Massive layoffs are reported. 2027, 2028, same thing. You guys think these companies are announcing layoffs in the beginning of 2026? They're going to start magically hiring people again in the middle of the year? No. It's going to progressively get worse. AI is only getting more and more better, and it's as soon as they start fine tuning AI, it's going to start replacing everybody. A lot of these entry level white collar jobs are going to get replaced. Don't you understand that? So you have to start taking action and start planning. Having a plan B and a plan C is never a bad option. But you not having any plan is a bad plan, if that makes sense. So look, guys, look, you need to take action. You need to start figuring out new forms of income. It's very important for you and your family. Diversify your income, save some cash, and don't buy a new vehicle. Probably don't buy a house actually, unless you can afford it and it makes sense, right? If it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent, then okay, buy. But if you don't already own a home, unless you can get something undervalued or off market, I mean, these home values are crazy. Everything's out of whack. Um, I just again focus on diversifying your income, focus on saving money, and focus on just preparing for what's to come. AI takeover, more job losses, economy's gonna get worse. The future looks pretty grim, but you can make the future look bright within your own personal life. So, things may be falling apart around us, but hey, there's always opportunity everywhere we go. So make sure that you always, think that way. And on that note, guys, look, like this video, guys. Subscribe to my channel. Helps me out a lot. I try to bring a video to you guys every single day. And on that note, guys, I'll talk to you guys later. Leave a comment below what you guys think I should cover next. All right? Peace out.